Today I have the great honor and pleasure to be sitting here with Dr. Ralph Norman. Ralph graduated from the University of Tennessee in 1954. So Ralph, to begin, I'd like to ask you a bit about your undergraduate experience at the University of Tennessee and what the climate was like during those early years of the Cold War in this setting.
Well, they were, as you say, early years of the Cold War. McCarthy was still a name to be reckoned with. During the time I was there at the university, the whole question of McCarthy versus the Army came up. Eisenhower came into office in '52, 1 year after I came. But by and large, East Tennessee kept the traditions that it had since the Civil War, when East Tennessee was Republican, and they refused to go along with the secession, or didn't want to. They did, reluctantly. Well, that's all background, but it is to say that Tennessee had a sort of a moderate middle range of opinions, both in the university and without. As it happened, the first course I took at the university in my freshman year was a logic course. Howard Parsons, a young man fresh out of University of Chicago. Somewhere along the line, Parsons became very much interested in Marxist thought. Now, this was a course in logic and not in political ethics or not in history, philosophy, or modern philosophy. It was a course in logic. One of the things that you do in that kind of first course in logic is to take a range of evidence and weigh it and see how you can make some sense out of a lot of materials that are there. And as our final in that course, we were given by Parsons an interesting set of materials that had to do with the development of the Korean War. There were a lot of materials that you were given, and you were supposed to make some inferences from those materials about how the war developed. It was pretty clear to me fairly quickly that the materials we had would indicate that the United States was probably more at fault than the communist regime in Red China or whoever was on the left in that whole conflict. That would be at least one way you could go with the materials we were given. This came to the attention, that is, the course itself, probably because there were some other students there who were very suspicious of what was going on with this, brought it to the attention of the press, and there was some local attention to the fact that Dr. Parsons had given us an examination which was geared to prove that the communist North Korea was really not at fault, and it was not really their invasion of the South at all, but it was far more complicated than that. But he also, in other courses that I took with him, would make comments here and there with respect to the need for a better understanding of the Russian-Soviet position in world affairs. Mm-hmm. Some years before, of course, Henry Wallace had been a candidate for president in 1948. This was before I ever got to the university. That was kind of a turning point, that is, the Wallace candidacy against Truman. From time to time, there were criticisms that became public of the university for what was thought to be too leftish kind of position. But my impression then and later as I became a member of the faculty was that by and large, Tennesseans did not have great interest in interfering in what was going on campus at the university. I later heard while I was in graduate school that Parsons had left the university, and that he had left because the university administration did not choose to renew his contract. I presume that he probably had been untenured at the time he was here.